You should know, everything done here has been to stop what's happening on Venus.
Did you figure out a way to do that?
Not yet.
Can you stop the pods that were launched?
No, the Agatha King...
Then shut the fuck up. Get up. Pick up the data course. Go.
Move!
Are you okay? Did they hurt you?
I would never have let that happen.
They hurt Katoa.
Bozia's son. Where is he?
They did something to him, and he got blue and sick.
She just doesn't understand.
Are you okay? Did they hurt you like they hurt Katoa?
Of course not.
No, seriously.
Yeah, they didn't have a chance.
Shut up.
Why didn't you come get me?
I'm sorry, May. I'm so sorry.
I love you so much.
Come. This is Amos. He's my best friend in the whole world. He helped me find you. Can you stay with Amos for a minute, okay? I'll be right back, I promise.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. I just need to talk to Dr. Strickland for a minute. I looked out for her. I protected her,
Oh, yeah.
even when I could have been shot for it. I saved May's life.
Alright, shut up, you douche.
She would have died without me right there on Ganymede, but I went back for her, and I got her out.
Prax, I think when May said she's a baby, she loves me. And I love her. Please, I'm begging you. You're not that guy. You're not that guy. Thank you. Thank you. I am that guy.
Wow.
Where's Dr. Strickland?
Zach, come on with us. Come on, let's go.
Oh, man. And I feel like that was like the most perfect Amos moment I've ever seen. Like encapsulating everything he thinks about himself, but simultaneously like doing something genuinely good for Prax.
Maneo comes, I can talk him out of this stupidity.
There's no talkback channel. He must have shut it off. He doesn't want to be found. Sorry.
Well, Germ, I guess that makes us even. I always thought I'd have something clever to say in this moment. Something pithy, even a little ironic, but memorable. I can't think of a fucking thing. Oh well.
Warning. Magnetic containment breach. Warning. Shit. Magnetic. Fred Johnson.
He has the missiles he stole from Earth. He can destroy those pods.
You want to send their transponder codes to Fred Johnson?
Tycho's near their flight path.
He could kill a lot, maybe even all if we're lucky.
If he shoots them down before they reach Mars, then the attack never happened.
Maybe a path to peace for both sides.
If he captures them, we're handing him another weapon.
I want to do this, but we all have to agree. All of us.
All right. I'm in. It's worth a shot.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying. Are you?
It's time.
The shit.
What the fuck is that?
Yes, that's my reaction too, Amos. Okay. Alright. Well, that was episode 6. Oh god. Well, that was okay. I feel like in these 2 episodes, we had a lot of major ongoing storylines kind of coming to a head, coming to some sort of resolution, if not downright conclusion, many of which were pretty emotional. And then clearly, as they do every time to us, whenever they give us some sort of resolution to something, at the very end they throw something crazy out there for us to say, like Amos did, what the fuck is happening? What is going on? But, you know, to kind of set up what's going to be coming, I guess, in the second half of Season 3. So let's see, there's a lot to talk about. The first thing I want to get to, which was kind of like maybe the highlight overall of both of these episodes, for me, is Prax being reunited with May. Was it, because it was pretty emotional for me. I was getting teared up, and I was hopeful the last few episodes that it was going to happen. They kind of scared us a bit with having her become so close to being actually experimented on, after Katoa basically fully succumbed to the protomolecule, but I kind of, at this point was optimistic it was going to happen, but it was pretty emotional for me just to see them actually reunited. And then they really took it over the top in terms of impact for me by having Prax wanting to basically kill the doctor, basically wanting to kill him to get revenge. As he had said to Amos earlier before, if I can't save her, revenge is the next best thing, but now here he's saved her, and even so, he feels like that this is what he should be doing. And, I mean, justifiably so. I was furious. I think that guy deserved to die, no question. He's dangerous. And he's another one of these individuals who seems like he's capable of convincing people to do despicable and horrific things by selling them in the idea that it's for the best of humanity as a whole, when that's highly debatable. So I can understand that, but, and then Amos comes in and stops him, and he's saying, you're not that guy. And then we see Prax kind of breaking down with, to me, almost, it seems, relief in that not having not feeling like he has to do that it's okay for him not to do that, and that all of the stuff that we've been seeing in the past few episodes with Prax maybe kind of trying to emotionally detach himself from situations that he in the past wouldn't have been emotionally detached from, with the deaths of other people, whether he just kind of callously tossing a body aside, or even in the beginning here saying, well, those people, they shot at us even though they were tricked into doing so, and they were civilians, basically. It's like, well, they shot at us, so they kind of like they had it coming, and that's not who he is. And he was trying to be that way because he was thinking that maybe this is what he should be doing, or it would make him strong. But Amos steps in and says to him, no, you don't have to, you're not that person. And he basically saves him from making a decision that probably would have haunted him and changed him for the rest of his life. So, I mean, that was hugely impactful to me. But then you also see Amos turn around and say to Strickland, when Strickland is kind of like, going to, foolishly being like, oh, thank you so much, as though he's been saved. And then he says, well, I am that guy, and he kills him. And I felt like that specific scene, that moment, like I kind of briefly mentioned as it was happening, it seemed like the most kind of Amos moment, kind of encapsulates him so perfectly and was just done so well. Like I didn't know how I should feel in that moment, because on the one hand, I was really glad that Amos did that. I personally felt like Strickland deserved to die, and that he needed to die, and that he was dangerous, as I said. But that, Prax couldn't do that. That's not something that Prax should have done. And so it's good that you have someone like Amos there that is able to step in and take care of that problem in the same vein as Miller had, in the past. But simultaneously, I didn't want to just fully rejoice, even though it was what needed to happen, and it was good, because, again, that falls back on this idea that Amos has of himself, viewing himself as a bad person. And I think part of it is just a realistic assessment of, what he has, or who he has become over the years, what he has done, the things he's done, what he's capable of doing as a consequence of the things he's lived through, yes. But part of it is also just the sense that he has of himself as this bad person, and it's just a conflicting feeling for me, because I think that's why I say it really encapsulates kind of Amos in that sense, in that there's always a conflicting feeling about him because he's a complex and really interesting character. And you can't really just say that he's a good person, but you can't say that he's a bad person in any real shape of the word either. He's a person that is highly damaged and that is capable of doing cold and harsh and violent things, and that thinking that that is the way to live, and sometimes that is the sort of person that you need to take care of situations like that. But I don't know. It was really, I would say it's hard to, like I said, it's hard to say exactly how I felt at that moment, but it was a very powerful scene, and I have to hold it up there as probably one of my favorite scenes that I have seen. It was very well done. It was great. And so to me, throughout these two episodes, that whole situation, the actual reunion of of Prax and May, and then that scene between Prax and Amos and Strickland was kind of the epitome of this for me. But there was a lot of great moments, and some of them were big and some of them were little in various ways. I want to talk about the scene between the Secretary General and Anna and Ehrenreich too. Another situation where you have these personalities kind of playing off of each other, and it's a big moment because it's significant in terms of the plot and a huge storyline that's been ongoing, coming to a huge big head there. But it's also a small moment for the characters and the things that they are realizing about themselves and about each other, and that we're realizing about them. You know, like I said, Ehrenreich is an asshole. He's done horrific and terrible things, but even as Avasarala had said before, when she said, you know, I did all these things and I did them because I felt it was Earth must come first for the good of Earth. And that is, it seems like, what Ehrenreich believes that he was always doing as well. And he's caught there, he's caught out, but he goes out kind of saying, well, it doesn't matter, you know, I did what I did, I'm not sorry that I did it, I felt that I did it for the right reasons. At least I have some sort of conviction in what I am doing, as opposed to this spineless person here. And I may completely disagree personally with Ehrenreich's methods and what he thinks is going to come out of the outcome of this. I think that he's incredibly foolish and short-sighted and willing to put aside any sort of decency and empathy for the sake of what he thinks needs to be done. But he has a point when he says that he, in some ways, in his own messed up fashion, kind of like Jules Pierre Mao, was trying to, or at least thinks he was, trying to think about the future of Earth and humanity, where the Secretary General there was basically thinking about nothing but his own public image. And he goes out saying that, and, you know, Anna at first is just like, alright, you're making a big show of it, but she's saying, no, he did this because he realized the truth, because he wants to be a better person, because he's changing. But then she hears this little thank you at the end, which is all about him and how he'd be remembered historically. And she realizes that Ehrenreich was totally right about him there. Ehrenreich was wrong about so many other things, but he was right about the Secretary General. And Avasarala knows that too, that that's the only thing he cares about. He's just basically a figurehead, and he, you know, is all about his own image and his own legacy, and so that's why he's so easily controlled and manipulated by people. So I thought that was another really interesting scene that said a lot about the characters and the story as a whole while still being small. So, and I think there was a lot of those throughout these two episodes. Same thing with everything we see with Jules Pierre Mao. You see when he's trying to speak to whatever is left of Gatoa, he's trying to ask questions, you know, what is it that the protomolecule's objective is? What is it doing? He's trying to ask, and, you know, and at that point it seems like he's not so much trying to actively control it as he is just trying to figure out something to have. And I guess I can understand that impulse to think that maybe if you can understand something, understand its purpose, understand, you know, how it works, then maybe you'll be capable of thwarting it in some way. I still think it takes a huge, massive ego to have that perspective that you are the one that can do this, as opposed to other people. And I still think it takes a huge, massive ego to say, well, you know, I'm the one that's going to figure this out, and then I'm going to decide who gets to have that knowledge and information and what they do with it. So he's not nothing he's done is justifiable in any way. And again, he's deluded in his own egotistical sense of self-importance and what role he thinks that he should play in this. But at the same time, I do understand the underlying idea behind it of needing to understand for the concept of the greater good. And I think that's one of the things that's so interesting about this show, you know, Aaron Wright and Jules Pierre, everyone here that we're talking about, they have their logic behind what they're doing. Even in there losing his mind and ranting and basically, you know, I don't want to say racist is actually the right term towards Martians because they're not really a race, but I guess it's more like a kind of nationalism, but with a focus on a planet as opposed to a nation state. Still, he's deluded and bigoted, but he has this perspective that's driving him. One that I said, you know, is making him biased and is a reason that he shouldn't be put in charge, as we've seen the consequence, but even so. Yeah, so speaking of that, we saw Southern be put down as a part of attempting to stop this from happening, which that was pretty surprising and sudden. I didn't really see that coming. And then Kocher also died. He got infected by the protomolecule and sacrificed himself to prevent it from spreading further. And that was incredibly sad to see Avasarala just kind of watching him put this message out into the void, really to her more than anyone. And I should have seen that coming, but I didn't see that coming. When he had the vac suit on, I genuinely thought he was going to get out of there. So that's pretty rough. And then I'll also say, you know, I really liked that we finally got to see Naomi explain about the situation, at least to some degree. We really don't know a lot of detail, but explain somewhat both about her son, how he came to be, how she came to be separated from him. She opened up to Holden about that, how that ties into the choice that she made, and that clearly had a huge, huge significant impact on him. And then both that and then her decision later when she wants to give Fred Johnson this information so that he can make the choice to try and shoot down the hybrids. The decision she made there to actually ask all of them, ask for their input and have a vote as opposed to just going ahead and doing it. I think those two things combined really had a big impact on, you know, swaying Holden and swaying me a lot back towards thinking that she really, while still not justifying necessarily what she did, it makes it more understandable, and I definitely she needed to be forgiven at that point. But then they go and break my heart because they show them in bed there together being happy, and I'm thinking for a moment, oh, wow, like I knew that they were making progress over these couple episodes, big major progress. I thought that, you know, positive direction. I didn't expect to see that happening so quickly, but I was really happy when I saw it, and then they gotta tear my heart out when Holden is like, oh, well, you're still leaving, aren't you? I'm like, oh, God. So, I don't know. I'm very curious to see what's gonna happen going forward. So, is she's actually leaving? Where is she going? What's gonna happen? What's the Rossi gonna be like without Naomi there? I don't know. That seems crazy to me. You know, what's going to happen with Avasarala and Bobby now that they've exposed this conspiracy, now that Jules Pierre Mao is basically in their custody, Aaron Wright's in custody. They're going to go back to Earth as having played a heroic role in stopping this false war. So yeah, I'm curious what's going to happen there. And you know, we have everything set in place for Fred Johnson now has again made a big political move that has helped Mars and Earth in some respects. And simultaneously, he and Drummer have also brought back the Nauvoo to be outfitted as a warship, so we see more advances for the belt. I'm curious to see how that kind of storyline develops in the second half of this season. Yeah, and then I feel like I'm leaving something out here that I definitely wanted to talk about, that I'm curious about coming up. So we had... shit. Oh, and then obviously the big cliffhanger at the end of the episode, and what the fuck was that thing that was happening? I guess this is the work that supposedly Katoa was talking about, and that has been hinted back to even, you know, with Julie all the way back when she was found, you know, the protomolecule always talking about the work has to continue. What is the work? And then we see this thing lifting off of Venus that must be, you know, partially the remains of Eros or whatever. But so very curious to see that. I thought that it was interesting also to see that in these episodes, kind of the protomolecule as a main kind of force to be reckoned with in this show come roaring back, where it's been a bit in the background. I don't want to say it's been totally in the background because that's not true. Obviously the hybrids have been a big significant part of this entire season, and the whole storyline since Bobby joined the show and Prax joined the show, but very much more contained, I suppose you could say, whereas we see again kind of its impact and power as the hybrids are shot up, and we see even just a little bit of the protomolecule spreading throughout the Agatha King and leading to its complete destruction, and then we see again whatever it is lifting off of Eros. So I just think they did a very good job with this whole kind of story arc, and I'm really curious to see where they go from here. This episode was great. Like I said, it had some really wonderful resolution moments and then some heartbreaking moments, and yeah, I am amazed that the show does continue to just get better and better. I mean, you guys all told me, but it does seem to be the case, so. Alright, it is very, I don't know if early or late is the right term at this point, but I'm pretty tired, so I think I'm going to wrap this up here, and if you have comments or questions, please do leave them down below. I'm going to get down to doing editing of both of these episodes on Wednesday, and then have them posted before the end of the day Wednesday, so, alright. Thank you very much for joining me today, everybody, and hopefully I will see you next time.